Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. We're here today talking about, still science and how the politics of science affects you. And today I want to talk about something that has been lingering in my mind for a little bit, and that is planned obsolescence. So we're going to go through what it is and how is that science and how that affects you. So beautiful day. And for us to go through that discussion, I'm gonna start with this beast of German engineering here. It's a Mercedes GL 450 4matic V8 engine, big engine in that matter. And part of what you're going to realize is that for V8 engine, and being a German engineering, has a lot of moving parts and a lot of accessories to the moving parts, hence a full engine which gives you almost no room to work on it. So before I talk much about this German engineering stuff over here, I'm gonna mention a little bit about why that's important in line with the topic of the day, and that is planned obsolescence. So planned obsolescence is a term that was coined by an industrial designer called Brooks Stevens in 1954. And the concept really did not begin from 1954. It has its roots back to 1924 with a group called the Fibers Cartel. This was a group of light bulb manufacturing companies that came together and deliberately decided to shorten the lifespan of light bulbs. Back then, most of these bulbs were incandescent bulbs, meaning they were filament based. And one of those substances that come to mind when you're talking about filaments is tungsten, given that is one of the elements that has the highest melting point. So it's stable at very high temperatures. It's as simple as W, element number 74 in the periodic table. And much later, these technologies changed, and these days we have got LEDs, light emitting diodes, on lighting technology. So essentially, the Fibers cartel decided to shorten the lifespan of light bulbs intentionally for no reason at all, just because they wanted to do more business. Meaning, if that particular item gets obsolete in a shorter period of time, you're going to go for a replacement. And that way, they're going to make more money. The bottom line increases, and they are smiling businessmen, essentially, at the end of the day. But, whoever is screwed is going to be the consumer at the end of the day. And that's the problem here. So this particular concept, evolved over time. And in 1932, other proponents came on board. A good example would be a guy called Bernard London, who wrote a pamphlet titled "Ending the Depression Through Planned Obsolescence." That is right after World War I. And his argument was that the government-mandated obsolescence is necessary, especially for personal items, meaning consumer products or consumer goods, to force consumers to buy new goods and create jobs. Yeah, so, the target still is the consumer at the end of the day. And then the same year, the two authors, Roy Sheldon and Egmont Arends, also came on board and, wrote something to make this particular idea more fancy or acceptable within communities. And they call the idea creative waste. And they wrote a book called Consumer Engineering, in which they argued that for strong economies to exist, they depend on discarding and replacing consumer items or consumer goods. So essentially that has been going on to where we are today. So I know most of you, especially those who are millennials like me, and older generations, the Gen Xers and all that, you do know that things used to last longer back in the day. But today, they kind of break and need replacement time to time. And there are so many ways this is done. So planned obsolescence, in which case an item, an application, it could be a physical product, is rendered useless over time, is done using different mechanisms or measures. So there are types of planned obsolescence, and there are going to be about 4 categories of planned obsolescence. One of them is going to be function obsolescence, in which case the product is engineered to fail or become non-functional after a certain period of time. And that is what we see in many, many cases. That aspect of planned obsolescence is what we are seeing, especially in this kind of engineering. So I can point to so many parts I've replaced on this particular car. This intake pipe for the intake manifold. I've changed a lot of parts down there, the water pump, the thermostat housing, a number of pulleys down there. I've replaced this particular expansion tank with a Chinese product, but I had to go back to a German product, which is what I purchased today. So this is what I'm working on today. I'm going to replace this expansion tank or coolant reservoir so that we prevent a leak that's coming from down there that is causing an element of overheating, because it's taking in air through, a hole that has come up because of heat shorting. Because it's so hot in this particular engine compartment, most of these parts are plastic based. These are plastic over here, the piping, most of these lines are in plastic form. I had one of these particular, line here that takes hot water to the interior of the car. It has an elbow back there, which also got broken because of heat trotting. So a lot of plastic pieces, and they did not. It's not like they do not know that it's going to break. They do know it's going to break, but it's been engineered to break so that you're going to replace it, and that way they stay in business. So for you, in this case, this is functional planned obsolescence, in which case these things are designed to fail so that you can go back and purchase or take this car back to the dealership. Essentially, Mercedes and German vehicles, that's what they like. You take it back, they do a 36, 74, 96 point checks. They tell you all the problems. They replace whatever parts that have a mess. And, you write a big check to them. They're good cars, don't get me wrong, but you're going to spend on them for them to stay on the road. Even more reliable companies like Toyotas, these days they're very plastic-like. A lot of parts that are easily replaced or that go bad after a short period of time and all that. So the second aspect of planned obsolescence is going to be systemic planned obsolescence or systemic obsolescence, in which case a product usability is undermined by changes to the system it works within, such as releasing new software that is incompatible with the older hardware. And this is the favorite of the cell phone industry. Like now, the new thing in town for iPhone lovers is going to be iPhone 17 with the types of variants they do have. For Samsung lovers, you're going to have the 25 series. And these phones are not really different. If you look at them, aesthetically, they change a few things. We're going to talk about that shortly. But really what they're looking to do is to bring a new software, which over time is not compatible with the older devices, forcing you into purchasing a newer product. So essentially, making sure they stay in business. The third one is going to be psychological or aesthetic obsolescence. This also is very common within cell phone industry, in which case when you have a newer phone, it's going to be swag. So aesthetically and psychologically, in the mindset of the populace or the consumer, you feel like you're more fancy, more forward when you have a newer device. Don't get me wrong, they look good, but it's a psy-op, it's a psychological operation going on, in which case they are engineering your mind to need a newer device, a newer series, the newer thing in town. And the last one is going to be prevention of repairs, planned obsolescence. In this particular case, they're going to make it very difficult to repair or impossible to repair some of these particular parts of these vehicles and other applications. Cell phones, for example, it was easy for you to replace a battery back in the day when it went bad and still you have a functional phone. But today, all batteries are internal. So if your battery goes bad, you're going to replace a phone. So part of that, making it impossible to repair or very expensive to repair, forcing you into purchasing a newer product. They can also do this by providing proprietary parts such as screws that you can never ever find screwdrivers or tools to work on that particular item with. So that has happened. This is what is going on here. These vehicles were simpler, more straightforward back in the day. And part of what they use to market this particular concept, or the concepts I've mentioned, is efficiency. They'll tell you they're going to be better consumers of energy. For vehicles, you're going to be have better fuel consumption. Cell phones, you're going to have greener, longer lasting batteries and all that. For light bulbs, they'll tell you they consume less energy. And you can name many, many, many other products out there that are consumer facing that do change time to time, are forcing you to buy again and again because of this concept of planned obsolescence. So, hey guys, as you buy your new devices, your slicker vehicles and all that, remember that this particular thing is not just coincidental or accidental. This is something that was engineered so that the corporations and manufacturers can make money, and it stems back to the 1924s. Thank you guys. See you in the next one. Have a beautiful day. Have a good night. Bye-bye.